Well, as I mentioned earlier, my topic today is on miracles. And are you ready for a miracle? And I would say, who's ready for a miracle? Yes, indeed. I am ready, and I am ready for each and every one of us to receive. As I mentioned in the meditation, it is our birthright to live in a state of miracles and grace. It's just up to us to make the decision and do what's necessary to accomplish this goal, which is a lofty goal to say the least, to live in the state of miracles. Miracles are everywhere. We just sometimes don't recognize them. Well, you know, recently we've had, more than recently, being in this environment, a lot of times people come to spiritual centers and churches to gain support. I would say, hopefully here, we gain support and love from each other. We give and receive. We get support when we're having challenges and we're down, and that we pray for each other and we do what we can for each other. Recently, we've had many requests for prayer. It's ongoing. I would like to make a special prayer out there for our lovely Bob. He's having shoulder surgery this week. And we're here to support you, Bob, in any way. We've already been talking about, once you tell us what your plan is, then we can make a plan of how we can serve you too, because you've been such a wonderful servant to our center, and I appreciate you. We all do so much. And you will be in our prayers. And the surgery's Friday at what time?
Thursday.
Thursday.
At 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Thursday. Just say a little special prayer for Bob, please. So recently, you know, obviously we've had Aurora's passing, which sometimes it's like, well, shoot, the prayers didn't work. What happened? She died. That is not necessarily, I don't think getting well and getting up out of your chair is always the best outcome. Because truthfully, and last night when we were doing the drumming and we sang the song to just let her be free, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. I swear to you, when I was closing my eyes and envisioning Aurora, she was happy, she was dancing, she was free. So, you know, we get so caught up in the belief that we've lost the game if we leave our bodies. Sometimes that's the greatest blessing we could ever ask for. And I've had the knowing that although it's painful and it's a loss, that looking back, it is also a great blessing for those who make that decision. So never think that you've done something wrong if that's your fate by any means. You know, I also recently I've had a cousin who was in Myrtle Beach, 65 years old, reasonably healthy person, a little pudgy, must run in our genes, I guess. But other than that, she's happy, a nurse, with her children, her husband, her grandchildren. They were on vacation, and she ended up in the hospital. Double pneumonia, sepsis through her body, and complete organ failure. It didn't look good. Earlier this week, it was not looking like she was going to stay around. Just got a text last night from my sister. She's in a regular room. She went from critical to intensive. Now she's in a regular room. They've got everything under control. I can tell you that zillions and zillions of prayers were going out to this woman. And prayer does work. It really, really, it was evident in this case. And so, you know, when we can send our prayers, but not necessarily with an agenda or the shopping list, it was just for, you know, the divine plan to occur, for peace, for comfort for her and the family, to really allow her light to shine through, to allow the darkness be melted away with the power of God's perfect love. And whatever the outcome is, it was a great outcome for her physical health. So for that, I'm grateful. I know Seal's been going through some situation with her son. serious, and we were talking just earlier, and he's doing better, but it's not easy. He's got a long road ahead. She's a mommy, and she's hurt and challenged by it. So we need to send Seal a little extra TLC and love, and Benjamin, because it's it's tough. It's really tough to go through these. When I was going through the situation with my mother a few weeks ago, boy, I felt and needed your love. And yes, we lost her, but for some reason I rejoice in her passing. I know that sounds weird after the grief, but I know she's dancing in heaven. So we are eternal beings. So it's just a matter of trusting in God's plan. I think that's certainly a miracle right there in itself. I know that Marianne Williamson made a statement, which I think is so powerful, which is in order to master a new way to be, we must master a new way to think. And we've got, as I always reflect to, and I know that even the idea of a miracle, to allow miracles to occur fully, we have to be willing to cut that cord of the past. Let go of thinking we know anything about anything, because we really don't. And just that requires faith and trust to just surrender, as I talked about last week. But if we can truly cut that cord of the past, we can just be renewed and restored in every moment. That's, to me, what it means to be born again. To be born again is to say goodbye past, and to be present in love in every moment. To allow Spirit, God, love, to be our director and our guide in everything we do. And sometimes the reason I think we don't do it is because we're afraid that maybe we're not going to get what we think we want. Well, I can guarantee that we think we know what we want, but we really don't. I can speak from experience on that. So I actually look at this as a grand adventure. Okay, I'm open to miracles. I have no idea what that miracle looks like. And it's always far greater than I can imagine. So the miracles of the Bible, and it's so funny that this one's the first one, is the feeding of the multitudes. It really is, that I'm going to share with you a few miracles of the Bible. They may be actual or metaphoric. I know that people have perspectives about what things I'm going to say, and either way, even if they're metaphorical and weren't actual, they're great testimonies for us to live by, great lessons to live by. So, Jesus took 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, looked up to heaven, gave thanks, and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They ate, and they were satisfied. Well, it's because this actually happened when Jesus was, drawing big crowds, and people were coming, and there was no food. Can you imagine just a few loaves of bread and 2 fish? But it was that faith and confidence and knowing that all of our needs are met. They really are. And, we don't know where things are going to come from. A recent, sometimes it's hard for people to receive too. Our lovely Dottie is going through some physical challenges right now. Where we've all been here, so many of you guys have supported her in a huge way. Long story short, we took up a collection to support her for, testing and supplements and other things that she needed. And it was very hard for her to accept this. It was, we have to, she gave so much. I said, Dottie, you've given so much, it's your time to receive. Let go, just say thank you. And so it's been a great blessing, because that sharing, right now, that's what she needs and needed was money. And that turned her whole thing around. She goes, you know what, I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling hopeful again. Wasn't feeling so hopeful last week, I can tell you that. But it's that love and that sharing, knowing that all of our needs are met. I know that Dottie knew that, because she always said to me over the years, you know what, I know that I'm in prosperity consciousness. I might not have a lot of money, but I know all my needs will be met. Situation shifted a little bit. She may have forgotten, so we helped her as a group remember that her needs are met. That is a miracle. That turned her fear into faith in a minute. It really, really did. One of my faves is, of course, Jesus turning the water into wine. You know, he's at a wedding, they run out of wine, and it's like, bring me the jugs of water, and there you have it. And not only was it wine, it was fine wine. And so that's another miracle. And I do believe that is a possibility of many. You know, I love what Greg Braden said about Jesus. He said Jesus, among many other things, was a master scientist. I mean, he really understood how the universe worked. He understood the power of energy and the power of our thoughts to create and the need for forgiveness. But when we stay present and we're not limited by the beliefs and the programs of the past saying, oh, that's not possible, that's ridiculous. That's going to be our reality. All things are possible. Truly, all things are possible that we can't even imagine. And of course, another miracle that the manna from heaven. You know, it's when the Israelites felt they were about to starve to death. Says the Lord showed them his glory by delivering them an abundance of manna from the sky to sustain them for 40 years until they reached the border of Canaan. It says, manna is from heaven. God provided this gift to the Israelites during their travels in the desert and is described twice in the Bible. So again, you know, that was a long 40-year journey. No idea where their sustenance and water and food was coming from, yet it was provided. We have to let go of those limiting beliefs that we're not taken care of. We truly are. Of course, the miracle parting of the Red Sea, that was another beautiful miracle that really was only accomplished by the faith of the people that they needed to go somewhere and they needed to get away. So the seas parted. Again, truth or metaphor, I don't know, but it's a powerful statement for what is possible. Of course, the Immaculate Conception. You know, interesting. Anything can happen. So anything is possible. I do believe that's possible, but it's just another example of get out of your way. You know, Jesus walking on water, another miracle. We think that, what do we think? We get on water, we sink. But that's only a belief system. It's a belief in gravity, but you know, of course we have to sink when we walk on the water, but not necessarily so. Jesus demonstrated that. I love, you've heard me tell this joke before, but I love this joke and I'm going to share it, about Jesus and Moses were playing golf. And they're on a little par 3, and the hole requires you to hit over a body of water onto the green to get there. So anyway, Moses hits a shot, lands on the green, and he's just like happy. Well, Jesus hits a shot, lands in the water. And Moses said, what club are you hitting there? He says, I'm hitting an 8-iron. And he says, oh, no, Jesus, you can't get there with an 8-iron. You need more club than that. He goes, no, I don't. He says, Arnold Palmer can hit an 8-iron on the screen, and so can I. So he tees up another one, water. Tees up another one, water, till he runs out of golf balls. And Moses knew to keep his mouth shut. And so next thing you know, Jesus goes to retrieve his balls out of the water, and sure enough, he's walking across the water. By now, the next foursome is coming up, and they look at Moses and they said, who the heck's that guy think he is, Jesus Christ? And the guy said, and Moses said, no, Arnold Palmer. So there you have it. So, but again, anything is possible, so he was staying in that possibility place. From A Course in Miracles, you know, it talks about miracles, obviously. The main definition of a miracle in A Course in Miracles is a shift in perception. The Course says a miracle is a correction. It does not create nor change at all. It merely looks on devastation and reminds us that what it sees is false. So in other words, the miracle is really the shift in how we choose to view something. If we're seeing war, if we're seeing conflict and famine and suffering, sickness, poverty, whatever it is, then we're seeing it through the eyes of fear and judgment rather than the eyes of God, of love, of spirit. And so the true miracle is a correction in our vision. And forgiveness is the home of the miracle. The eyes of Christ deliver them to all they look upon in mercy and love. Perception stands corrected in his sight, and what was meant to curse has come to bless. Each lily of forgiveness offers all the world the silent miracle of love, and each is laid before the Word of God upon the universal altar to our Creator and creation in the light of perfect purity and endless joy. And you know, forgiveness is really so, it's where it's at. I mean, that's really the bottom line. We have to, that's, you know, and I think the deeper our commitment is to forgiveness, the universe throws us more tough lessons in forgiveness. Do you have that experience, or has that just been mine? I don't know, maybe it's just me. But forgiveness means that I know that I've drawn this into my life, this situation, no matter what it is, how horrible it may seem, for an opportunity to grow and to heal and be stronger. And so if I can allow myself to surrender to whatever may be happening and know that I brought it in for a holy purpose, and that person who's really mean did something, or I think they did something to me anyway, know that they came in love, and that my goal is to offer forgiveness. And of course, that requires a lot of faith and trust. So I suggest maybe you start off with little forgiveness, get rid of all the little stuff and then get the big stuff. But ultimately, we have to purify ourselves. You know, the Course in Miracles talks about to receive miracles, purification first is necessary. And the purification it speaks of is the judgments of self and others. You know, the attack thoughts, generally towards ourselves, but often towards another. The belief in sin, that, sin is actually, as the Course says, a mistake. It's a mistake in perception. So if we can just forgive ourselves, go into forgiving the past, letting go of the past, stay in present, when we feel that little judgment come in, that attack thought, vengeance, whatever it is, be still and shift it. Just keep shifting, and it works. The Ho'oponopono is a very powerful practice, which we've talked about often in here over the years. That is a Hawaiian forgiveness practice. And that means that, this world, it's really saying, as A Course in Miracles and other teachings, that this world is a reflection of our collective consciousness, or really our individual consciousness. My personal experience is my own. And when I see something, rather than attach to it, I take a couple of deep breaths and say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And just say that over several times. You talk about a miracle, it will shift. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And I remember the little cards you made for me, Bobby. Like, you were here when I talked about that before. It works, it does. I mean, we just have to be a little willing. That little bit of willingness can transform our entire life. And of course, just know that since we are all one, every time I choose forgiveness over judgment, the entire world, it benefits from that, because we're all part of this big quantum soup, as I like to say. So we just throw more love into it, more forgiveness, less grievances. It's just amazing what can happen. We have to, just move beyond the illusion of separation. We're not separate. We're not separate from Source. The strangest belief we've ever made is that it's possible to be separate from our Creator. And it's possible to be separate from each other. So I've said this many times, but I remind myself, and hopefully you guys too, that your salvation, your awakening, is dependent on forgiveness. Letting go of, if you think that you're justified in any means to hold on to vengeance, anger, whatever, you can play there, but that's a big veil between you and the light. We're free will beings. So we have to, it's our choice. I can hold on to it and I can rationalize and I can justify it, or I can let go. And when I let go, Spirit says, okay, good for you. Now more light can pour in. It's a choice. So it's, the few miracle principles at the very beginning of the book, chapter 1 in A Course in Miracles, is 50 miracle principles. The very first one is one of my most favorite. I've talked about it many times. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. If you really take that in and know that, there's levels, it's like, well, this is a little bit bad, this is really bad, this is awful. There's no level except in our own judgment. One miracle, all a miracle is a shift and to erase our belief about something. I've said this before, but I think it's important to repeat, I don't know if you realize this, but when the virus of HIV and AIDS was first discovered, it was actually treated with an antibiotic. It was like, oh, here's a virus. Well, then it became a gay man's disease, the devil's work. Fear, fear, fear. All that fear turned this simple disease into a death sentence. I was in the middle of it, I saw it, and there was so much fear around it. Thankfully, the fear has shifted in a large way, not totally, but it has shifted. So you're seeing people live long, healthy lives with this. So we've taken that edge of fear off of it. Of course, cancer, gee whiz, everywhere you turn, Ellen calls it cancel. I kind of like that better, cancel. But cancer is just running rampant. I can tell you that someone gets a diagnosis of cancer, that fear, that just sets off all the triggers for that to become more accelerated in its process. So again, no order of difficulties in miracles. Either you believe it or you don't. I really do believe and know that's to be the case. Whatever the case is, I want to be, I want light to manifest and permeate every cell in my being. That's my choice, that's my path, and to be led by that. All miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. His voice will direct you very specifically, and we will be told everything we need to know. And, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? A mantra from A Course in Miracles. We'll be led very specifically. There's no mistake, of who shows up in our life and what happens. And, even just as recent as I shared with you earlier, Friday morning, I didn't realize that Aurora was so ill. I mean, I knew she was not good, believe me, but I didn't. And something said, even though I had a busy day, you're going to hospice in Nashville. So I drove up there that morning, and now I know why. But I followed that voice. It wasn't a question. It's like, no, I got too much to do. It's like, pay attention. We are being guided. We're being led. I feel so blessed, honored, and grateful that I was able to be there. It's really, we are here. We're interconnected. We're here to pay attention and support each other and to understand that we are our brother's keeper. Everyone's entitled to miracles. No one's exempt, as I said. Purify, purify, purify. Any unhealed issues of your past, you may want to consider forgiving those. And I know there's many ways that can be done. Some people feel they need to analyze it, and they need to feel it, and they need to go through the process, whatever that may be. And that's perfect for that person. Again, we'll be specifically led to what we need. Course in Miracles says, though, which feels better for me, it collapses time, that if we have enough faith and trust, and instead of engaging and attaching to the fear, the pain, the suffering, the judgment, if we can, in that moment, do a little ho'oponopono or bring the Holy Spirit in, goddess, bring in the archangels, whatever works, but just stop it in its tracks, take a breath, and it melts away. It really does. And if it comes back in 2 seconds, breathe again. That's been my experience, but not always. It's come through practice and being kicked around a lot, and mostly by myself. It's like, okay, I kicked myself here, and even when I knew I shouldn't be going down that path, I did anyway. And that served a divine and holy purpose as well. So, Yogananda, this is just a reiteration of what I had said, because I love to bring in many different aspects and perspectives on a message I'm sharing. And of course, I brought in the miracles of the Bible, the Course in Miracles, and now Paramahansa Yogananda. And he says, of all the miracles performed by Jesus, none was equal to the mightiest miracle of the spiritual victory of divine love over evil. And that is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. These words have created in human hearts an everlasting monument to Christ's love. His act of forgiveness on the cross was the utterance of the divinely human Jesus who had attained final victory over his flesh and cosmic delusion and passed the greatest test to which the flesh can be subject. Even while the dearest thing in life, the human body, was suffering the pangs of torment and imminent death, Jesus did not falter in manifesting his divine nature. He gave up his body but never yielded in his spirit. That's the greatest miracle. That was the message that Jesus came here to teach. I'm not talking from a religious necessarily perspective. I'm talking about a universal expression of divine love and what is possible and potential. I do think that one of the greatest, I'll say, mistakes that is expressed and shared in some religious institutions is that we'll never, Jesus was one of a kind. Well, yes, he was, and so are you. But that we could never attain what Jesus attained. And I believe, as Yogananda expresses so much in his book, The Resurrection of the Christ Within, is that Jesus came here to demonstrate what is potential and possible for each and every one of us. And that he was a teacher. He was, even the least among us can do what he did and greater things. There's been many masters who've come here with that knowing, but we all have that potential and possibility. And that's what I'm hanging on to. It's I don't think that, and I think that shows, well, life doesn't guarantee that it's going to be, cruise ships and champagne all the time, but it does guarantee that if we stay tuned into the Spirit, all is well. Never accept this is from Yogananda, never accept the limitations of your environment. Remain inwardly ensconced in the castle of God's presence. There is no other haven of safety. In fearlessness affirm, I am castled in God's presence. No harm can reach me, for in every situation of life, physical, mental, financial, and spiritual, I am protected in the fortress of God's presence. Feels pretty good, doesn't it? And that's the truth. That's the second coming of Christ in my mind. That is the new paradigm. The new paradigm is nothing really new, except that we're finally going to take all this great stuff that has been thrown at us over zillions of years, and we're going to actually put it into practice. That's the new world. That's the new earth. And so forgive, 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 and the world is your oyster. And so it is. Namaste.
Namaste.